So I'm a dad, and I love being a dad. I have 3 kids. I have an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, and an 18-month-old. My 7-year-old's going to be mad at me for forgetting. But I love just running around with them. I love playing board games with them. And I love that opportunity when I get to tuck them in at night and I say the words of the Shema. But I can tell you a day, it can sometimes be exhausting. And so once those kids are asleep, which I love dearly, I settle into my favorite spot on the couch. I pick up this remote and I begin pressing buttons. Now, there's a funny thing about this remote control. There are over 40 separate buttons. Yet, beyond the channel, volume, mute, and on-demand buttons, why are the other 36 buttons there? Do they enhance our television viewing experience in any way? Do they encourage me to press more buttons? Not at all. This remote control is representative of the way we run Jewish organizations. The assumption is that more is better. So, like adding buttons to a remote control, we spend a lot of time, energy, and resources adding programs, events, committee meetings to engage more Jews with Judaism. It's actually not a bad plan, except for the fact that our engagement numbers are awful, right? We don't want it to be our fault that the continuity of the Jewish legacy of our institutions fails with us. So we do what we know. We add more things. But I'm about to tell you something that you might not like. More isn't better, and it doesn't engage more Jews. How do we know this? Because research says increased choice decreases satisfaction with matters as trivial as ice cream flavors and as significant as jobs. This is a problem for Baskin-Robbins. Now, inherently we know this, right? The people who are coming to the old programs, they're coming to the new ones as well. Those that don't go to the old programs, they're not coming to the new ones either. So all that time, resources, and energy is going into engaging the exact same people over and over and over again. So if more isn't better, what is? I would argue that it's relevancy. Yet we can't be relevant until we start by pressing the stop button. We have to stop and define who our target audience is and what their specific needs are. We have to stop and listen and find a solution to service those needs. And we have to stop and we have to let go of everything else. Now, the most important thing for us as Jewish professionals is to engage more Jews with Judaism. And this is especially true for those Jews between the ages of 18 and 29, the millennials. We're not doing such a good job, right? And the Pew study confirms this, right? 24% of millennials are members of synagogues. 16% are members of other Jewish organizations. And 13% see religion as essential to Judaism. Now, I know I'm going to get this. But Rabbi, don't worry, they'll come back when they have kids. They don't and they won't. And we know this if we just use the eye test. The Jewish population is actually increasing. Yet if we look at every single one of our institutions, synagogues, JCCs, Jewish federations, Hillels, Jewish day schools, every one of them are decreasing. Now, if we continue, we go from this to this. So what are we going to do? Well, we're talking about sustaining the Jewish world. So what do our rabbis have to say about sustaining our Jewish world? They use a 3-pronged formula. Ashloshah Devarim. The world stands on three things. It stands on Torah, on prayer, and on loving deeds. But these are not the only three things upon which the world stands, according to our rabbis. For a parent, it stands upon guiding a child through Torah, a wedding canopy, and deeds of loving kindness. For a synagogue goer, it's during the Untitled Chapter at the High Holy Days where we say repentance, prayer, and righteousness prevent God's severe decree. And for the Talmud scholar, this three-pronged formula is abundant, especially in Pirkei Avot, and one of them is Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, where he says, the world is supported by law, truth, and peace. See, the rabbis, depending on the audience they're trying to reach, change the things, right? The parent, the synagogue goer, and the Talmud scholar each have three different things they're supposed to do to sustain our world. And what is the only constant? It's not the divarim, it's not the things. It's the shlosha, the simplicity of three. Now, returning to this beautiful remote control, there was a company that figured this thing out. And they said, we're tired of all these buttons. So they focused on simplicity and produced this, right? As opposed to having all these buttons that don't do much of anything, they gave us 3 buttons to give us access to everything. This is what our rabbis talked about when they said the world stands on 3 things. Focus on simplicity and relevancy. Now, I'll give a little bit of a personal story. When I went to college, my mother said, guilt as our motivational tool. Adam, I want you to do one thing. Now, we were twice-a-year Jews. She says, I want you to do one thing. I want you to go to Hillel. Now, my face is blank and shocked at this point. And she says, they're going to have free food, and you might even meet a nice Jewish girl. Well, I could never say no to my mother's guilt, but the opportunity to actually have a date as a freshman, too big to pass up. So I walk into Hillel and literally did one of these, walking right out. Now, I could always say to my mother, I went, but it was not relevant to the world that I was living as a college student. And this story is not different for a lot of other people. The irony is not only am I a rabbi, but I'm also now the CEO of the University of Florida Hillel. But besides that, there are so many individuals who have that story, and we are lucky to get those ones that come back into our institutions and make a meaningful difference. Because most individuals that make that U-turn, they never come back. So we had to do something radical at the University of Florida Hillel. And we had to shift the model based upon these statistics. And so we decided to do something. A little bit radical, I know. We actually started to listen to what the students actually wanted. And we did a lot of research and found 70% of millennials want to travel to all 7 continents. 85% want to work for socially responsible companies. And we found that 40% of the unemployment rate in the United States are millennials. What do college students want? They want to travel, they want to do good, and they want to find a career path. These are the 3 things that became our 3 buttons to fulfill our mission to make Judaism and Israel relevant to the 18 to 22-year-old. And this is what happened. We increased birthright participation in year 1 by 10%. That was from 180 to 200. We're on pace this year for 240. We increased total participation, student participation, by 33%. From 5,000 to 6,500, and this year, we're on pace for 7,200. And we increased average Shabbat attendance by 200%, from 50 to 150. This year, once a month, we average 350 during Food Truck Friday nights. Now, how did we get these numbers? We stopped getting distracted by all the buttons. We eliminated anything that didn't focus on travel, social good, and finding a career path. In 2013 and 2014, we had 350 programs. In 2014 and 2015, we cut 290 to end up with 60. Now let me reiterate, we cut over 80% of our programming and increased total participation by 33%. Now I know that this philosophy sounds absurd, and you might be right, but I can tell you that adding more things to get more people involved is not working. This philosophy focuses simply on relevancy. And to be relevant, we actually have to define who our target audience is. We actually have to determine what they want, not what we want. And we have to be excellent at engaging them. Now, I would love to say this was an easy process. But people are attached to the ideas of yesterday, and people fear change. We are connected much more to the way things work rather than how well they work. And this makes growth really hard. And I can tell you during our transformation, people complained, funders left, and personal attacks were a daily occurrence. But I can tell you something. Drawing in more Jews by adding more things is not working. And in order to change that, in order to stop losing Jews, we have to do something radical. We have to be bold. We have to listen to our rabbis rather than our critics. And I can tell you, we were so fortunate to have such a supportive board that when old funders left, new ones actually came in and expanded our donor base because of our progress. As I conclude, I challenge each of us to ask the most difficult questions about our own organizations. Who is actually our target audience? What are the 3 buttons that are essential to servicing their needs? Then let go of everything else. Focus on your shlosha. Stand on your shlosha devarim. Thank you.